Good morning to you from Canterbury, day 3 of this Bob Willis Trophy game between Kent and Sussex. My name is Ben Watts. Adrian Harms is alongside me, BBC Radio Kent, BBC Radio Sussex. In the building and ready for the action, the two batsmen just making their way out onto the field. In front of us, Jordan Cox, the 19-year-old unbeaten on 167, and Jack Leaning, new addition over the winter for Kent, his first century for his new county yesterday, 110 not out as well. So this Kent pair, 85 overs in, will have a new ball to face potentially in 5 overs time, and then it'll be a race on before the 120 over mark, when there is an enforced declaration that comes in for this competition. Plenty to be excited about. Good morning to you, Adrian.
Yeah, morning, Ben. Great to be here. And what an innings yesterday from Jordan Cox. He just batted beautifully. Went to his 100 with a huge 6 over long on, which was a delight to watch. He then got struck a nasty blow by Stuart Meaker. We wondered how he would respond to that. He was in his 120s at the time, but he got up, he got on with it, and full credit to him. Full credit to Jack Leaning, as you say, his first century for Kent as well. It was an excellent stand. Jason Gillespie said afterwards he didn't think Sussex bowled particularly well. They didn't bowl enough as a group together. So I'm expecting an improvement from Sussex this morning, because they are a long way behind in this game, and to stem the flow of runs and keep Kent in some sort of check, the best way to do that is to get wickets this morning.
It's going to be a tricky one for Sussex with the position that Kent are in, but you would suspect that perhaps the way things could pan out, that a couple of quick wickets, get some fresh batsmen to the crease, pressure to score quick runs, be in for an interesting one. First ball of the day then. Just nudged back down the ground by Leaning, with spinner Carson on strike, or with the ball in hand rather. I'll be doing an update in a moment's time for BBC Radio Kent listeners, and Adrian likewise for BBC Radio Sussex. Just running you through the field. There's a slip in play, short leg, quite tight extra cover and mid wicket as Carson, the off spinner, in and driven straight to that man at extra cover. There's a sweeper out the deep point boundary, quite a wide-ish mid off, which looks to me like a very familiar man, Mitch Claydon. Mid on in play, mid wicket, and I think there's a deep square leg as well as Carson in with Kent. 3-3-8 for one, gave that plenty of loop, tossed it up, driven up towards mid on, and fielded. So a few dot balls, 3 of them precisely, to start the morning. If you're just joining us, here comes Carson again, in and bowling. Just defended back down the pitch here by Leaning. Important from Kent's point of view that these two can just re-establish themselves and get back into a rhythm of batting that they were producing yesterday. As Carson tosses this one up, full toss, and clipped away for 4 runs. Leaning has picked the gap masterfully there with the man at mid-on and quite tight mid-wicket. He's managed to stick the ball in between. It wasn't the best ball, but he's stuck it away well.
Yeah, he did, as you say. It was a poor delivery, wasn't it? Full toss, and Sussex can't afford for Kent to get away further this morning.
Update coming then for BBC Radio Kent listeners, as Leaning on the strike once again, moving on to 114 with that blow. Defends this one into the offside. End of the first over of the day. You're listening to BBC Sport Online. Myself, Ben Watts, Adrian Harms in the commentary box today. David Fulton's here with us as well, the former Kent captain. Lovely to have you with us, wherever you're listening or watching from. Lots of spectators, not within the ground of course, but in the Freeman House, the apartments that overlook the ground away to our left. Plenty of people out on their boundaries, or their balconies rather, this morning. Although it has gone a touch cloudy. We did have a lot of sunshine prior to 11 o'clock. Just underway for the third day. Kent 4 more runs to their overnight score. Jack Leaning's moved on to 114. Kent 3-4-2 for 1. Jordan Cox, though, the 19-year-old, just about to face his first ball of the day. A masterful 167 from the young man yesterday. He'll be looking to build on that as Kent look to build their own lead before the new ball comes and a possible enforced declaration on 120 overs. Commentary continues online, now with the weather. Kate Kinsella. So we're about to see Stuart Meeker, it looks like, from the Nackington Road end, with just one slip in play, in and bowling to Jordan Cox, and immediately he goes back of length and Cox clips it off his hip down towards fine leg for a single, so he's up and running. I did notice he had a few balls thrown at him probably around about 20 minutes ago by the batting coach Michael Yardy, and for me, I like that. The fact that he's got 167 runs yesterday and still feels like he needs to just hit a couple of balls out the middle of the bat before going out to the middle of a game today. Good routine to have. Here comes Meeker. Again, it's back of length and steered into the onside. No run taken on this occasion. 3 for 1 then, Kenton. Yeah, I must admit, I was watching on from afar yesterday and thinking, well, Kent will surely look to just bat all day today and see if they can bowl Sussex out, completely forgetting, of course, these rules for the Bob Willis Trophy where 120 overs for your first innings, that's when the enforced declaration comes, as Meeker bowls short and wide and it's cut away for 4 runs, shorter boundary that side of the ground, and it's a poor delivery really from Meeker. Leaning cashes in and has his second boundary of the morning, so he moves to 118. That cut stroke takes Kent's score up to 347 for 1. Bit of a loosener from Stuart Meeker. Yeah, so I was completely forgetting that rule. Anyhow, as a result, it means we could have a few overs of the old ball here. 90 overs, the new ball becomes available. Kent have got the challenge to see that off or try and use it to their advantage potentially if Sussex do take it. This is short and pulled away out towards deep square leg for a single by Leaning. He moves to 119. Kent 3-4-8 for 1. And then it could almost, with the wickets that Kent have in hand, it could almost be a bit of a T20. It could be quite an extraordinary passage of play. Sussex will, of course, not have any fielding restrictions or anything to worry about, so they can post men on the boundary if Kent are really going gung-ho. It could be quite a unusual passage of play, but quite an exciting one potentially, as Meeker is in. Cox clips his away slightly aerially backward of square on the onside for a single. 1 delivery remaining in this over. I mentioned that there was just 1 slip in play. There's a deep point, deep square, long leg. Cover mid-wicket, mid-on, mid-off. Can't quite see if there's a third man. The overhang from the Frank Willie away to our right cuts off that view. If I could count, it would help as well. But here comes Mika, leaning poised. Oh, he ducks underneath this one, hooks it. Is he going to be caught? No, he's dropped. Down at long leg. It was a short delivery from Mika, leaning, hooked it, but took his eyes off it, top edged it. The fielder down at long leg has come in a couple of yards off the boundary, spilt it, and the ball has gone for 4. So 350 comes up for Kent. Leaning has his third boundary of the morning, but he is dropped on 119. But the ball spilt over the boundary and away for 4 runs. So if Sussex players hadn't had enough of a difficult day yesterday, chasing leather and watching these two Kent batsmen dominate, they've had a bit of a wretched start this morning with the Mika short ball that was cut away, leaning with a couple of other nice shots. There was a full bunger from spinner Carson that was put away as well, and now that dropped catch. Tough start for Sussex.
Yeah, in comes Delray Rawlings, bowls to Cox, who hits this straight firmly on the offside, picks up a single to the sweeper on the cover boundary. I've got to say, he goes to 170, the total 354 for 1. To be honest, I think Tom Haynes' problem was that he wasn't on the line. You know, I don't see an awful lot of point being at fine leg and being 5 yards in from the boundary. And when that it was a top edged pull, wasn't it? And you know, Tom Haynes was always struggling to get back and take the catch, and Stuart Mika was not happy. In comes Rawlings, bowls, and Leaning just plays that quietly to backward point, and there is no run. I think that Carson just had the 1 over.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're going to try and mix it up.
Rawlings in again, bowls, and worked easily by leaning into the covers, fielded by Garton. And there's one more run for the total. But that's just what Sussex needed then, you know, to get a breakthrough then, get one of these established batsmen out leaning. What was he on then? 119?
Yeah.
119, yeah. But he's advanced very quickly this morning as Rawlings is in again and bowls, and just worked easily enough by Cox down to deep backward square, fielded by Mika, and there is no run. But he was probably 5 yards in from the rope, wasn't he, Ben? You know, and I'm never quite sure about that, really.
Yeah, it was...
If you're on the rope, you take the catch. Rawlings again bowls, and forward comes Leaning, and just plays straight back down the track. There is no run.
I mean, I wasn't here yesterday, but does that piece of play kind of sum up Sussex fortunes a little bit?
Yeah, I think it did, and I think their fielding got a bit ragged. There was 4 overthrows at one stage. I mean, they never gave up. I mean, that was certainly the case. Rawlings comes in and bowls, and played firmly by Leaning to backward point, and there is no run. It is the end of Delray Rawlings over. 11 overs, no maidens, no wicket for 37. Kent 356 for 1. Cox at 171. Leaning on 124. Yeah, I mean, certainly there was, and Jason Gillespie was right in his post-match interview. He said, you know, we didn't bowl particularly well, but I can't criticise the effort of the group, and there was no question about that. There was no one, you know, sort of walking around sulking in the outfield. There was none of that sort of stuff going on, but you know, they did have those overthrows. And then this morning, I just think to get one of these 2 out, that could have been a big moment, and you've got a new batsman and force your way back into the game. Now Tom Haynes is right back on the rope. I think if he'd been there when that chance came, he'd have caught it.
Mika to continue then from the Nackington Road end as Cox goes back, punches it back up the pitch, but no real timing up towards mid-on.
And it would have been Stuart Mika's first-class wicket for Sussex as well. And not, you know, on a pretty flat pitch, and it is a good pitch. We didn't know on Saturday. Matt and I were saying, well, it did look light even then, but I don't think we realised quite what a good pitch this was. There was a little bit in it for the bowlers, we felt. Harry Podmore, I thought, bowled particularly well.
He's a good egg, Harry. Really has been an excellent addition for Kent. Stuart Mika bowls short and wide, left alone by Jordan Cox on this occasion. 356 for 1, by the way, kentcricket@gmail.com and at BBC Kent Sport if you want to get in touch with us, Kent fans in particular. I think there may well be specific Sussex contact details.
Yeah, there is. sussexcricket@bbc.co.uk, or you can tweet us at BBC Sussex Sport.
Just to say, Martin Shaw's got in touch saying, morning Ben and Adrian, if you hadn't picked this up already, this is now a record 2nd wicket stand for Kent against Sussex. It beats the 229 by Messrs Fagg and Ames, at Hastings back in 1948.
Oh, that's a few years ago, isn't it? What's that, 72 years ago.
I'm always quite sad when those kind of records go, in truth. There's this one's short, and it's chipped up in the air, and it's fallen kindly for Jordan Cox. There's a short mid-wicket in, and he's, spooned a leading edge from that back-of-length delivery, basically in between mid-wicket and mid-on.
And I think when the luck is not going your way, and it's not going Stuart Meeker's way, that was a pacey delivery, and as you say, Ben, it was a top edge, and it spooned in the air. There's two men in, there's a mid-on and a mid-wicket, and it fell between the pair. Neither had any chance of getting anywhere near it. But just perhaps posing one or two problems here this morning, Stuart Meeker. He's certainly looking to bend his back. Yeah,
he's doing that. He's in a game. Short ball, sways out of the way. Cox lets this one go through. Yeah, the reason I say I always feel like it's a bit of a shame when those long-standing records go. On the one hand, those records are there to be broken, aren't they? But at the same time, we're probably not going to talk about that stand at Hastings in 1948 anymore, because it's been wiped from the record books.
Yeah, they only show the record then, don't they, for that particular, for this particular wicket. So that'll get, as they get raised from the top of the list.
Short, a full ball, in fact, from Meeker, driven up towards mid-off. I think that's probably the first ball we've seen in that half of the wicket from Meeker.
Yeah, Sussex yesterday persisted with a tactic of having three men back on the leg side. They had two men behind square on the boundary, one just in front of square on the leg side. But to be honest, Jordan Cox didn't really look as if he was really ever going to play that shot. I mean, it was a trap that was set for a long time, but the ploy didn't really work, and this morning there's just the two men out there.
Meeker clipped away. This is going to be 4 runs off the hit by Jordan Cox. Didn't really get up that one. It was slightly dug in by the bowler, and Cox just lovely little glance around the corner. The 250 partnership comes up, 253 between this pair. Cox onto 119, or 119 is contributed to this partnership rather. 124 from leaning. Cox onto 175, of course. Kent 360 for one more over until the new ball is available, Adrian.
Yeah, so what have we had this morning? 4 overs, and Kent have added 22, so they're rattling on at best part of over 5 and over, and we were saying if they went at 6 and over for their full 35 overs, then that's going to give Kent a lead of 200, round about 200, so Kent are on target. As in comes Rawlins. What can he do? Comes in bowling around the wicket, clipped away by leaning nicely. 2 deep mid-wicket, field up there by Henry Crocombe, who comes off the boundary and fields, and there is no run. And actually that delivery from Stuart Meeker probably brings down a point that Jason Gillespie made last night. They didn't really build pressure, Sussex, and Stuart Meeker bowled a decent over them, then a loose delivery down the leg side as Rawlins comes in and bowls, and a good delivery, pitching around middle and leg, and Cox plays it straight back down the track, and Rawlins fields off his own bowling. Just the one slip in place, 4 men saving well on the offside, a sweeper on the cover boundary, mid-on, deep mid-wicket and a deep backwards square as Rawlins bowls and hammered through the offside by Cox, but the sweeper is very quickly round Tom Clark, who fielded particularly well yesterday. He set a good example. The 19-year-old scored 65 in the Sussex first innings, and it was really good to see at the close of play. He made a point of walking across the outfield and congratulating Jordan Cox. They know each other from England under-19s, as in comes Rawlins and bowls, and forward comes leaning, plays straight back down the track, and there is no run. It was just a nice touch, really. And Tom Clark, I'm sure, will have his chance over the next couple of days to play a big innings. Batted very well on Saturday. Rawlins in again, cut away nicely through backward point, and that's a very good bit of fielding by George Garton, and that's exactly the sort of thing that can lift a fielding side. It was cut firmly by leaning. Garton had to make the save, or else it would have been 4 runs. But it was a really good stop, diving to his left-hand side. Rawlins again, bowls, and doesn't time this, just leaning, plays it into the onside, fielded by Haynes. And a tidy over by Delray Rawlings, 12 overs, no maidens, no wicket for 40. Kent 363 for 1, so leading now by 31, leading 126. And Cox 176. Interesting with David in here yesterday, and he was talking about games where you're really under the pump and trying to make something happening. And it was interesting when he was saying that you almost have to think as a fielding side, you know, a dot ball is a victory, 2 dot balls is a victory, you know, and just trying to keep it a very positive frame of mind and, you know, build up these little incentives and targets. And you never know what's going to happen.
Three for 1 then, as Mika in and bowls a full delivery well down the leg side. Good stop.
Yeah, it was. From
Brown, the skipper. No immediate suggestion that they've taken a new ball, Adrian.
No, good spot. No, not at all. And was it David saying this morning, you know, sometimes that new ball can disappear fast around the ground. You know, I don't know. I just wonder whether, you know, Sussex could do with a couple of wickets here. They need to stem this flow of runs.
Mika past the umpire again and bowls a slightly wild delivery, which Leaning shows no interest at all in trying to play. Umpire is lenient.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dot ball, and I was talking about bowling dot balls, but I think your description was spot on. It was a wild delivery down the offside, and Ben Brown was leaping across almost in front of Phil Sorty, standing virtually at second slip to stop the ball.
Stuart Mika once more running in, trying to hit this pitch hard and trying to threaten the batsman. Short ball which Leaning ducks underneath.
Yeah, that was better, wasn't it? I mean, that was a quick delivery.
He's certainly bending his back, as he suggested. He's not just going to let these two settle in and score a few easy runs.
And he did unsettle Jordan Cox. I thought it said much about Cox being recovered, because it was a nasty blow. Mika was putting up a head of steam yesterday late afternoon when that happened.
Balls again, driven away off the back foot by Leaning. There's a fielder out there in the deep. Has to just hurry a little to get through to the bowler's end. Jack Leaning moves to 127 now, 176 for Cox, who's on strike. 364 for 1, Kent, here. BBC Radio Kent, BBC Radio Sussex, BBC Sport Online.
I thought he was very honest, Jack Leaning, in his interview last night. Matt asked him about, you know, he hadn't made 100, I think, for 3 years in first-class cricket, and he said, yeah, it starts to bother you a bit when you have a run like that.
Here comes Mika, short ball again, and Cox dunks underneath this one. And he's getting in touch on the email, saying that he's watching the live stream. There is I think our commentary is they're slightly behind the live stream. I know the team were working hard yesterday to try and sync that up. He's also pointing out that if only there was a beer garden, a certified beer garden on the ground, everyone could sit there and watch on. Of course,
yeah,
that's not the way things pan out, as this one is a clip delivery around the corner down towards fine leg. 1 run for Jordan Cox. I kind of understand your frustration though, Andy, when I was out for a meal yesterday in London and there was a good amount of people that were a little bit too crowded around the table for my liking, in truth, and then you look at this wonderful vast space in front of us. Kent 365 for 1, by the way, at the end of the over, and people are not allowed in, and it is a real shame, really.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to a friend yesterday who was explaining that someone they knew had been up to London for a drink thing and was quite surprised to go into a bar and find that there were actually, you know, best sort of 15 people around the table, all from different backgrounds. So it's in comes Rawlings and Bowles and tucked away onto that leg side.
I mean, I understand why this is being played behind closed doors. It's about the player safety as well, and it's about the continuation of the competition. But at the same time, it would have been extremely frustrating for those supporters that went to the trial events that went well, and would have been hoping that there were going to be more of those, and only for things to be put back. Of course, it's a fluid situation, but I think that's the various rules for pub gardens compared to going and watch your team play a bit of sport and having a lovely space to sit in.
Rawlings is in bowls, driven through the offside, fielded by Mitch Clayton, who runs around from mid-off to field, but not before Leaning has gone through another single. He goes to 128, 367 for 1. I have to say, We're very good here at Kent. We're in our own little bubble here at the end of the ground. The Sussex players are at the far end of the ground. As Rawlings is back to his mark. In the 92nd over, still no new ball taken by Sussex. Rawlings in and bowls, and forward comes Cox and plays quietly to mid-wicket. And Sussex have got a little bit of control here. I mean, I don't think Stuart Meeker was threatening to take wickets in that over. He bowled, 3 or 4 short deliveries, but Kent, they're in a great position, but the attack isn't yet on, as it were, as Rawlings in and bowls and cut away firmly by Cox to the sweeper on the cover boundary, who's Clark, gets in the throws, 1 more to the total, 368 for 1. Slip, still those 4 men saving 1 on the offside, sweeper on the cover boundary, mid on, deep mid wicket and a deep backward square. Rawlings working hard on the ball, comes in off this relatively short run up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paces and bowls, and cut away back to the square. That's going to be 4 runs. Just too much width there from Delray Rawlings, who looks towards the sky. He's annoyed with himself because he's bowled a nice little spell here this morning as Delray, but he just gave a little bit too much width then to Leaning, who was very quickly back and cut the ball firmly away through the gully region. And once it beats the infield, it's just racing away. The outfield here is lightning quick. And Leaning goes to 132 and Kent to 372 for 1. Rawlings back to his mark and bowls, and clipped away by Leaning onto the onside. This time picks up a single to Meeker, who comes trotting in from deep backward square to field. It's the end of another over. That's the end of the 92nd over. So just to reiterate the rules, as we're going to have a hygiene break by the looks of things. Just to reiterate the rules, no side can bat more than 120 overs in the first innings. So that means that Kent have got another 28 overs today in which to, and then they'll have to declare. In a funny way, I mean, if this were a championship match, you'd think Kent would be saying now they'd probably bat until tea. I'd have thought, something like that, give themselves 4 sessions to bowl Sussex out, and bear in mind Sussex would have been in the field for a couple of days. As it is, it just brings a slightly different dynamic to it. Makes it a bit more interesting, maybe.
Yeah, just on that point, because we've had an email in from Brian, who's listening in from Brookhaven in Pennsylvania, USA. Says, good morning, Ben and Adrian. Back with you again as day 3 gets underway at 6 a.m. on the East Coast. He says, I'm not sure I'm a fan of the 120 over cap for the first innings, but I guess it's in play to push for a result, considering how condensed the schedule will be for the rest of the season. He says we're seeing something similar in the States. For an example, with baseball, double headers that have been created due to COVID postponements and the weather, they're being played over 7 innings per game instead of a regulation 9. He says that I don't like things that are inserted into the game that seem artificial, but he would rather see Kent bat on a little bit. Anyway, thanks for the accompaniment on a work day a work from home day. But I can see his point that Kent have got themselves into this situation, and through this ruling, it could even things up without.
Yep.
As Meeker is in, short ball, Leaning ducks underneath it.
I guess it's fair to say that if this was a championship match, you would say that it would be very, very difficult for Sussex to win this game. And I'm not saying they're going to win it, but for 1 minute, but
they could.
They could. Because Kent could just bat them out of this game. Bat all day today, and Sussex would have no chance of winning the game. But Sussex could have a chance.
So there's 2 sides to it, isn't it? And it is an interesting one, but of course, as Meeker bowls down the leg side, that was a fuller delivery.
Yeah.
At the moment, he just seems to be catching the batsman out slightly. I don't quite know which half of the wicket he's going to bowl it, whether he's going to dig it in short or bowl it really nice and full.
Graham Peters has been in touch, and this picks up on what you were talking about the partnership down at Hastings. Good morning to you, Graham. Good to hear from you. He says, hi, Adrian. I was interested to hear from you this morning that these two have broken the record Fag-Ames partnership at Hastings in 1948. More in a minute.
Meeker. Explosive action beats the bat as Leaning looks to scythe this away in the offside through to the keeper Brown. 3-7-3 for 1.
Hastings was good to visitors in the 1940s, as that is where Dennis Compton scored his 18th century of the 1947 season. I never knew 18 centuries in a season.
That's not bad, is it?
That's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, what a great statistic alone that is, Graham.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Thank you very much for sending that on to us. As Mika's bowling wider on the crease this time, short ball again, digs it in.
He goes on to say, last night I started to watch on catch-up the afternoon session. I was enthusiastically on the edge of my seat when the first wicket fell. Midway through the afternoon I'd retreated to the back of the sofa, and by tea I'd fallen asleep. Today I've just decided to listen in an attempt to dumb down some of the pain. Graham, it's lovely to hear from you. Thank you for getting in touch. Thank you for the statistic about Dennis Compton. Yes, it was tough watching for Sussex fans yesterday. Probably a good job there weren't many here.
I can imagine. As Mika bowls. Oh, another hook shot from leaning. He makes contact, possibly with glove. Didn't sound particularly woody, but it comes down towards our commentary position and away for 4 more runs. And by the way, thank you to Ken, who has passed on the stat to Martin, and he's emailed it into us. Jack Leaning passing his highest first-class score, which was previously 131 not out. He moves now to 137. Kent 377 for 1. Sussex, of course, 3-3-2 all out first innings. I've got plenty more emails flooding in actually, so I'll try and get to them in a moment. There's Mika bowls once more to Jack Leaning. Just pushes this off the back foot out towards cover. No run. End of another over. So some of the other emails, Andrew, I've passed that on to Kent. He said he's struggling to get onto the live stream. He's saying it's maxed out. We could have such big interest in this game, Adrian, that even the internet gremlins are finding it all a bit too much. I've tried to pass that on for you though, Andrew. If you're listening via the BBC Sports app and website, which is also available for you to digest the game, of course, but if able to as well, there are those live pictures with our commentary.
In comes Delray Rawlings, coming into bowl to Jordan Cox, who plays quietly to Harry Finch at short extra. There is no run. I've had an email from Ian Scales in Finland. Good morning, Ian. I'll read your email in a couple of moments' time. Makes a couple of interesting points as Rawlings is in with just the one slip in place. He's in and bowls, and forward comes Cox with a model forward defensive. Foot right to the pitch of the ball, head over the ball. Plays the ball quietly to Finch at short extra. There is no run. Rawlings back to his mark. 4 men saving one on the offside. Rawlings is in bowl, short, clipped away by Cox onto the leg side. Through mid-wicket, Haynes has to trot to his right at mid-on to field. 1 more to Cox, he goes to 180. Kent 378 for 1, that's now a lead of, 46. I think, yes. Rawlings again. Bowls, forward comes Leaning, plays quietly to short extra. Good little spell there from Delray Rawlings. They talk a lot, don't they, about getting out of an over, and he's bowled, 3 dot balls out of the 4 so far this over. He'll be determined not to bowl a loose ball like he did in the last over, just to finish the over. Rawlings in again and bowls, pitched up, driven to mid-off, fielded by Claydon, a misfield by Claydon. Oh, that's sloppy. I know he's the senior member of this Sussex side, but that's not great. That should not have been a single. He let the ball sort of roll through his legs, and an unwanted single as far as Sussex are concerned, leading to 138. Total to 379 for 1. Rawlings in again, bowls, and that's a full toss and driven down the ground and well fielded this time by Tom Haynes. And Jordan Cox will feel he missed out, then it was drilled down the ground. Probably should have gone for 4 runs, but Tom Haynes rather rescued the bowler with a good stop at mid-on. End of the over, 379 for 1, Leaning 138, Cox 80. Listening to live cricket on the BBC, BBC Radio Sussex, BBC Radio Kent, myself Adrian Harms, alongside Ben Watts, and here comes the new ball. Umpire Long holding the ball aloft at the far end. Just to read Ian's email, he says, "Hi Adrian, I'm not really enjoying this hammering. So he talks about Ollie Robinson. He said he's headed up Ollie Robinson not playing for Sussex. And he says, I really hope that England play him, as otherwise they've seriously weakened our side, as demonstrated by only taking 1 wicket so far. Should he not play, it would demoralise him and make Sussex supporters livid. Incidentally, what is the record 2nd wicket stand for Kent? Good question. Eternally hopeful, but not very." Interestingly, speaking to David Fulton, who will be joining our commentary team very shortly, actually, we were talking about Ollie Robinson, and David was making the point that sooner or later it's good to give Ollie Robinson a game, whether it'll be this test or the third one, but no question, when you've got someone who's taken 137 wickets in the last 2 seasons, you're going to miss him. I'm going to leave you, Ben, because you've got an update to do, and the next voice you'll hear will be Ben, and then David Fulton for the first time this morning.
Thank you very much, Adrian Harms. Off to update BBC Radio Sussex listeners. Regarding that email, I'm fully understanding of the frustration regarding Ollie Robinson. If he's being taken out of this game to go into the bubble, the hope would be that he plays, because of course there are plenty of players in that bubble that are reserves at the moment. As Claydon bowls with this new ball driven away. Update on the way for BBC Radio Kent. Kent to 379 rather for 1 here, and continuing in a similar fashion to yesterday. Bat dominating ball. Jack Leaning has gone through to his highest first class score, 138 for him, and then 19-year-old Jordan Cox 180 not out. This is now a record second wicket stand for Kent against Sussex, beating the previous record that was set back in 1948. Leaning was dropped this morning on 119, but it was spilt over the boundary after a top-edged hook shot. The new ball has just been taken by Sussex, 94 overs into this innings. Kent just adding a couple of runs since then. 380 for 1 here at the cricket. Kate Kinsella has the weather. Didn't miss too much, just a clipped single away into the onside as Mitch Claydon continues from the Nackington Road end. Sent away out towards square leg with another little flick around the corner by Jordan Cox. And a very good morning to David Fulton.
Very good morning, Ben. Very good morning, everyone. Mitch Claydon entrusted with a new ball. I feel a bit for Stuart Meeker, I must say. It took a long time to be introduced into the attack. The high-profile signing from Surrey over the winter. And he's been asked to charge in bowl bouncers with a ball that was 92 overs old. You take the new one, I'd be tempted to give him 1 or 2 with it, but no, straight to Claydon.
Here he comes then, the former Kent man. Defended off the back foot into the offside. That's a good point. Meeker would have been nice and pumped up and fresh and
loose. I mean, he was loose. He hasn't taken a wicket since, certainly in county cricket, since the 4th of June 2019, when he took a couple of wickets against Sussex in the second team. So you'd think he'd want 1 or 2 things in his favour. He's got a flat pitch. Why not give him the new ball, give him 2 overs and say, you know, here's a few things for you.
Here comes Claydon again. Full delivery. This is edged down towards third man. There is a fielder down there who is just slightly obscured from our view by the Frank Willie stand. So a single taken. 382 for 1.
But I'm pleased that Sussex have taken the new ball. I would have been tempted to take it straight away or a little bit earlier. Kent adding 41 this morning before it was taken in fairly even time. The reason for not taking it is that the new ball obviously can travel to the boundary that much quicker, but if they want to get back into this game, then wickets are the order of the day.
Claydon the man trying to do that at the moment, as he bowls with that familiar action to many Kent supporters, driven up towards mid-off by Jordan Cox. End of that first over with a new ball, so 95 gone, means 25 more overs Kent have got to try and build the lead, which currently stands at 50. 382 for 1.
And Kent will be trying to push that lead of 50 up to around 200. I think that's very realistic given the amount of batting talent Kent have still got. They've got a man in Sam Billings due to come in next, who has been in pretty decent form in one-day cricket for England, and this is a bit of a one-day scenario. He's going to come in, and if he gets in, maybe he won't. But look to put back to ball pretty quickly, and the likes of Ollie Robinson and the rest have been in decent touch, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Not sure about this 120 over rule, Ben. I don't know what you think. I mean, I understand the reasons for it. Obviously 90 in a day, 120 is the most you can bat for. I guess the most you can bowl for. People are concerned about the workload on players having been out for such a long time through the pandemic, but just a little bit of an easy option for a fielding side. You don't have to take any wickets, we'll just walk off at 120. So it looks like Henry Crocom's going to be in from the pavilion end, and he's bowling to Jack Leaning. He's on 140, just forward and just bats it back to him along the pitch.
Yeah, we had an email in from Brian saying he didn't like it. To him felt a bit artificial. bit contrived. And my point on top of that was, in a normal scenario, Kent have batted themselves really into a position where, unless there's a complete cascade of wickets, they're in complete control. But that could shift.
Yep, Crocombe in again, leg stump, and flicked away, but straight to mid-wicket, no run.
Yeah, by limiting their innings, there is a chance that could shift back in Sussex's favour to a slight degree.
It helps Sussex out, no doubt, when you're 382 for 1, and when you've got a team, and I speak as someone that fielded for about 175 overs on debut, and then went and got a naught as an opening batsman. So that was my championship debut against Surrey. So they're going to be spared that ignominy of having to field for that long. As Crocombe's in again, bowling to leaning an edge, and it's gone past Phil Salt at first slip, could run away to the boundary. Third man is running round, not going to get there, and this is just more evidence of what is Jack Leaning's match so far. Certainly his morning was dropped earlier, as you heard Ben mention. That one, not a chance to Phil Salt, probably would have gone and carried to a second slip, but you're not going to have too many slips at your disposal at 386 for 1, as it now is. Bad luck on Henry Crocombe, who bowled okay yesterday. The man playing just his second game.
Almost illustrated your point as well, that if that was with an old ball, would that have gone all the way to the rope? Would it have gone quite as quickly? Not quite sure. Didn't really carry though, as you said.
No, Salt is deepish and wide. It's more of a second slip. Crocombe's in again to Leaning. He just lets it go outside off stump. And I've been impressed with these two this morning, because 35 overs, it's still quite a long time to bat. You could come out all guns blazing and suddenly lose 2 or 3 wickets. So I think you'll see Kent gradually go through the gears. You think all of this morning's session, maybe a little bit of the afternoon one, will take us to that 120 overs. Crocombe is past umpire Mark Newell, and he bowls back of a length, and Leaning steers it into the offside. He'll be pushing for 2. I don't think he's going to get it. Down to a wide third man. Throw comes in right over the bails. Good standards.
For those of you that were just getting in touch with us, Robert and also David, who's listening in from Ghana, thank you very much for your emails. There was a question about what's the record second wicket stand for Kent. And it's 382 by Dixon and Denley against Northants at Beckenham a couple of years ago.
Crocombe bowls Jordan Cox solidly behind it. Was that the game that Dixon got 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his first 3 times he went past 100. He went 100, 200, 300. And that's quite daunting in terms of a sequence of scores. Unless you're Brian Lara, you don't pump out too many 400s, but pretty decent effort from Sean.
Yeah,
he's now obviously up at Durham.
Yeah, when he went big, he really did cash in. Great concentration, and Kent supporters, while on the one hand I'm sure will be wishing him very well on his move up to Durham, I'll be delighted to see that the man who's effectively replacing him in the team, taking his spot at the top of the order, Jordan Cox, almost looking to emulate that knock from Dixon. It's going to be timed out to an extent on 181, Cox.
Well, it will be interesting to see, or would have been interesting to see, a bit of a sliding doors moment. What would have happened had Sean Dixon not made that move to Durham? Because I think my understanding is that Kent were keen for him to sign a new contract.
Yeah, they said that to us. They offered him terms.
And with the likes of Crawley, Denley and Billings away, he could have easily started in the position that Jordan Cox is now occupying. I think Sean was obviously concerned about career longevity and where his contract was at. Durham maybe offered him a longer deal, but I know he was concerned about some of the wickets here at Canterbury. We played a bit of golf with him, but there's nothing wrong with this one. This is an absolute belter, and Jordan Cox is taking full advantage.
Mitch Claydon from the Nackington Road end. In and bowling, that's a good shout for LBW. Full delivery. Maybe bat onto pad?
Yeah, just the slope sometimes can persuade umpires that might have been sliding down the leg side. Mitch Claydon, it was full. It looked pretty straight, but if anything, he tends to nip it back in. You add the slope in. Nigel Long might have just adjusted that going down leg side. I sometimes think when a bloke's got 145, if you hit him on the pad, he should have to walk off. Shouldn't be missing it.
He was trying to clip it away leg side. Leaning, tapping his bat, waiting for Claydon again. Inside edge, down towards long leg. Running hard here, the two batsmen. Good stuff from Leaning, good athleticism to come back for 2. 147 for him now, 389 for 1 Kent. Mike Watkinson getting in touch on kentcricket@gmail.com, just musing about possible expectations for the day, and of course suggesting bare minimum begins at 400, and that maximum batting bonus point. Then Kent looked to bat for the 120 overs. Clipped away, full toss. But there's a fielder out at deep square leg, so just a 1 here for Leaning to take him to 148.
Well, I like to think 400's a given. Having said that, if it's not a given, it was some of the most extraordinary bowling and batting we've probably ever seen, given they need 10 more and they've got 9 wickets in hand. What a collapse that would be. But yeah, 400 absolute minimum, and chalking off batting points is important. You know, if Kent have aspirations of progressing through to that Lord's final, every point is going to be crucial.
Claydon to Cox. Punches this nicely off the back foot, driven out towards a sweeper on the offside boundary for a single. Yeah, Mike saying 450 minimum if you bat for 120 overs. Anything less would be very disappointing. Realistically, even if Kent do lose 2 or 3 wickets, should be looking to accelerate after the opening, say, 10 overs of the new ball. Try and pass 500.
Yeah, I mean, I caught Matt Walker last night on a dog walk because we live about 50 yards from each other, and I thought 550 was possible. He said, yeah, 200 lead would be nice.
Just nudged away into the offside. There's a thought from Leaning that he wanted a quick single. Jordan Cox turned him down.
But I think just dominating the game, if they get 160, 170 lead, it's going to be tough for Sussex. They've got a young team, and they've also got a batting lineup which is stacked full of attacking batsmen. When you want to kind of just someone who's prepared to bat for a long period of time. So Kent won't mind them shot makers.
Claydon bowls again, softly played into the offside. This time Leaning will have himself a single to move on to 149, end of the over, 392 for 1 Kent, a lead of 60. Slight side issue, David, with, of course, a very interesting game of cricket going on in front of us, but what breed of dog have yourself and Matt Walker got? Did they?
Matt Walker's got a cockapoo. He wasn't on the dog walk. I just walked past his house with the family, and I'm godfather to his daughter. He's godfather to my eldest son. So we often walk past their house and knock on the door, and we did it all through lockdown.
Yeah.
And but he has a cockapoo. I have a black lab. But yeah, it was just nice to catch up. Henry Crocombe into Jack Leaning on the verge of 150. It'll be the first time he's ever gone past that milestone in his professional career. Notched his 5th 100 yesterday, first for 3 years, and an important one. When you can move to a county, you want to start well. He missed out at Chelmsford last week. Crocombe in, past umpire Mark Newell, bowls to Leaning, who drives. He's fielded at mid-off, no run, and it doesn't matter how well you're playing, Ben. If you get 149, 199, and I speak as someone who got consecutive scores in the 190s back in 2001, and getting out in soft fashion on both occasions, you suddenly get a bit twitchy. Crocombe is in, past the umpire, bowling to Leaning on 149, and he tucks it into the offside, looking for a single. Doesn't get it.
He's desperate just to get that extra run.
Yeah. I managed to get out to Mike Hussey. Mike Hussey was a very fine player with the bat.
Yeah, not much of a bowler.
Not much of a bowler. And I'd got out to 190 here at Canterbury against Northants, and he came into the attack, and all the fielders started chirping up about the nervous 190s, and I tried to run one down to third man and nicked it. Crocombe into Leaning on the leg stump. He turns it in the leg side. He's going to get it. Pushes it wide of mid-on, and Jack Leaning jogs through for 150, the first time he has ever gone to that milestone. Salutes his teammates, who are all up on the balcony applauding him, and he's going to get some sort of congratulations from Jordan Cox. It might be a glove punch, probably not a hug, a handshake, an old-fashioned handshake. There you go, old school.
Delightful.
Well played, Jack Leaning. Kent 393 for 1, Leaning 150, and Jordan Cox on to strike, 182 not outs. Crocombe into Cox, and he just pushes forward. Well bowled, young man. Just the full-maker's name from Cox, who will be eyeing up a double 100. Not a bad way to start. Maiden 100, he's made it a big one. He's desperately keen to go past 2. Last ball of Crocombe's over. Bowling to Jordan Cox on his pads, and he flicks this past Ben Brown, and that's going to be 4 runs and rather ruins what was, up until that point, a very fine over from the young man. But Cox, who's signalling, I think, for a drink. Might be the hand sanitizer break. But so far, another very good 45 minutes for Ken, Ben.
Yeah, very much so. Jack leaning through to 150 then from 232 balls with 22 boundaries. Cox there on 186 not out, and I think if you're up in that Kent dressing room, David, you couldn't really ask for too much more from the morning so far.
No, it's gone according to plan, and I think it's a worrying sign for Sussex, because you have all the opportunity to regroup overnight and come hard in the morning. Whilst they were always going to be up against it, you'd like to think, you nipped one out early and there was the drop catch and things like that. Young team, inexperienced team, but heads can very quickly drop when things like that go against you. And it's exactly what Jason Gillespie, Ben Brown would have been guarding against. Get a couple of wickets, get yourselves back in the game to some extent, slow the rate of scoring. But if you don't take those chances, and the new ball kind of comes and goes and the ball starts flying to the boundary, then it could start to get messy, because you've got the likes of Billings and Robinson and Darren Stevens. Imagine Steve-O coming out with 15 overs to go and a licence. I mean, crikey. Might have to take cover up here. So it's some warning signs.
Yeah, I hope that happens. In truth, from a selfish point of view, I just love watching Darren Stevens bat, and particularly when he just frees the arms and looks to try and, well, normally, often it's a counter-attacking situation. He'll come in and do that, but
yeah, often when Kent need him most, and it's probably not this situation now, but he could put the cherry on the cake if he does get in. So 397 for one, the final batting point, just a boundary away.
Try and get to some of your emails in a moment. Thanks for all of you that are emailing in on kentcricket@gmail.com. Claydon Bowles defended back down the pitch by Jack Leaning. Kester saying it's a bit of a strange feeling, says in fact that naturally he's glad that Kent winning, he's a Kent fan. Somehow he says this brutal long strangulation of Sussex just doesn't quite seem like cricket to me. Sport should be about two near equals battling their best and ending up, if not friends, at least respecting one another. Well, so often that happens and we really do revel in it, but sometimes you get these occasions when, as Leaning nudges this one down towards third man for a single, where one side gets in an advantageous position and keeps hammering it home, and that's what's happening at the moment out in front of us.
Well, it is, but if I was a Sussex fan, then I would still have plenty of hope. I mean, what a great opportunity, and this is what I'd be saying to my batsmen. What a wonderful opportunity you've got to go and bat for the best part of a day and a half and go and do a Jordan Cox, go and pump out a double hundred. You've got a flat pitch, you've got a hot day. Lovely time to bat.
Claydon bowling. Cox just lets this one go. It was a wide delivery from Claydon, banged in and miles away from the batsman as it passed through to the wicketkeeper. 399 for one, about to tick over on the scoreboard over on the far side. The lead still only sits at 67, and Kent will only have 21 more overs to build it after this one due to the rules in the Bob Willis Trophy. So as it is, Kent's domination, as it's been put by Kester, as this is a short ball and again Cox ducks underneath it, won't be stretched to too ridiculous an extent because of the limit.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it should mean is that Kent put the foot down pretty soon. I mean, there's no point being 460 for one after 120 overs from this position. You're going to go full 20-20 mode, albeit the fielding side can slip a few down the leg side and post their fielders out.
Pushed away into the offside by Jordan Cox here, who is 186 not out. I might save your email, Dave Evans, who's given me a wonderful stat. If Jordan Cox can add a few more runs to his tally.
And what Cox has got to be careful of here is that he doesn't get preoccupied with that double hundred. It's a big moment for a young man, I get that, but it's important that he recognises Ken have got to push on here as well. He's got to find that balance.
Claydon bowls once more. Softly played defensively, just in front of him. Dot ball, 399 for one. Bruce Perkins says, hello Ben and David, do you any of the Kent statisticians out there have a list of Kent's big recent stands or in recent years? He said he was lucky enough to see the Benson Taylor record stand of 300 back in 1990. This current one, he says, though, totally unexpected and quite wonderful from his point of view, as Cox is on strike. Just nudges this one away. Down towards third man. Excellent bit of fielding. And the men get back for two. There was just a slight slip as the fielder dives and then tried to get back up again off the practice wickets in front of the Frank Willie stand and throw it in. So 400 comes up for Kent at the end of 99 overs on the board. What's the biggest Kent stand you were ever a part of or witnessed, David?
I wouldn't have been a part of too many, Ben, to be honest. I had a few good opening stands with Rob Key. But those kind of stats I never took that much notice of, to be honest, Ben. Maybe because there weren't too many of them, but I can't recall that there was. The only stat I'm quite proud of is I think Rob Key and I hold the record for amount of runs for an opening pair this century. That was the case about 10 years ago, and I don't think the way players chop and change these days that there have been too many other prolific opening partnerships. I could be wrong. If anyone out there knows differently, please do get in touch. As Henry Crocombe starts a new over, bowling to Jack Leaning, who edges down to third man. They're going to scamper back and look for two. The throw is coming in, but Leaning is quick, and the throw is slightly wide. In fact, it deflected off Ben Brown and hit Jack Leaning, who is bent double in a little bit of discomfort, but no, he's okay, I think. Brown apologised and even picked his bat up for him, handing it back to the Kent batsman. But yeah, it looks in a little bit of discomfort. But I don't think he's going to miss out now on 153. I think he's going to walk off. He's just taking a moment. Jordan Cox coming down to check he's okay. I see you're looking hard at the phone and you're checking out the stats. Have we got a statistician anywhere nearby that can let us know?
We've had a couple of tweets and messages in. I'm just tweeting that Kent going past 400. Yeah, do get in touch with us, kentcricket@gmail.com or at BBC Kent Sport. Had a fair few emails in this morning, a few I haven't been able to get to, so I'll endeavour to do so.
Crocombe bowls to Leaning, who drives, and I think Big Mitch could have perhaps cut that off. It was only a couple of yards to his left. He decided not to, turned around, chased it, to no avail, and what I thought was going to be a single turned out to be 4 runs. The big fella looks a touch on the stiff side, which is not altogether unexpected given the day in the field yesterday, but he's bowling from the far end and he didn't move too well there, Mitch Clayton.
Partnership now passes 300. In fact, 300 on the dot. The first wicket fell, Daniel Bell Drummond for 43 on 107 yesterday. This pair now putting on 300 for the second wicket between Jack Leaning and Jordan Cox.
Crocombe into Leaning once more, short ball. Wide outside off stump. Leaning practiced the kind of ramp shot after the ball had gone past, which would have been an option given the line of the ball. It's no run, 407 for 1. Just going to start trying to use the web to find out Kent's record partnerships. Starting to get into that territory as Crocombe comes in again to Jack Leaning, who's on 157. He bowls down the leg side. It's going to be 4 more. And Crocombe's done this every now and again. He bowls nicely in the channel for 3 or 4 balls in the over, and then 1 or 2 just slide down the leg side. And Kent's batsmen aren't in the mood to miss out. Just a little leg glance, and Leaning moves on to 161 for 11 for 1. So Kent rattling along here without really taking too many risks.
It's one of those where it's a morning where you're struggling to keep up with the various milestones between batsmen's individual scores, the overall total, the lead, the partnership. Richard getting in touch, kentcricket@gmail.com, listening in from Worcestershire, saying great to see Jack getting his highest first class score in just his second game for Kent. Good delivery, that one. Beats him for pace as he was trying to cut it away. And also, Richard, just adding a little piece of news which I don't think we've spoken about this morning. It's a slight sideshow with the situation of the game currently at the moment, but one that we'll look upon going forward, certainly the Kent listening public. The addition of 20-year-old seaman Nathan Gilchrist, who's joining on loan from Somerset and making that move permanent.
Yeah, exciting signing as Crocombe bowls once again to Leaning, just nudges it out into the offside. That is a single to complete the over. 11 runs off it without a shot in anger. That'll please the coaching staff and captain Sam Billings. And Ben Brown pats his bowler on the back. Bit unlucky with one of those fours that Mitch Claydon escorted to the boundary, but the other one was down the leg side and got tickled round there.
Yeah, I can't say I know too much about young Nathan. He's yet to make a first-class appearance for Somerset, but Kent have got a good record in recent years of picking up some younger players from elsewhere. They've looked to try and do the same with Kadri, as Richard's pointed out. Likes to see Kent trying to get some young players and look to develop them. Claydon continuing from the Nackington Road end. A stifled appeal from Ben Brown as it's attempted nudge into the onside from leaning.
Yes, all I know about Nathan Gilchrist is what Paul Downer was telling me earlier. I don't think I'm betraying any confidences to say that he can bowl quick spells, and he's an exciting signing. And I think that in the current climate, with one or two financial headaches no doubt looming for all counties, to be able to find a rough diamond and polish them up is probably the way to go.
Claydon bowls a full delivery inside edge from Jack leaning into the onside. 1 run taken in the current climate as well. Simon Cook, pre the competition beginning, the bowling coach at Kent was telling us that probably their seamers, they're only going to really look to try and play them 3 out of the 5 games. They're going to rotate them, want to manage their workloads. They haven't had the normal fierce build-in and pre-season that they would prior to a county season. So you would assume that coming on loan straight away, he'll get his opportunity.
Yeah, he might do. If Kent's seamers are all fit, as I believe they are, then it's quite a nice position to be in. And I guess if you start to win 1 or 2 of these games, and Kent obviously are bossing this one at the moment, and the Lord's final is looming, then the kind of rotation theory might go out the window.
Claydon bowls short ball, sways out the way of this one, Jordan Cox.
But I think at the outset of the Bob Willis Trophy, it's just an opportunity to play some good competitive attacking cricket, but also to find 1 or 2 of these young players. You know, someone like Jordan Cox, who might not have got an opportunity in a full county championship with Kent flushed with all their top batters, suddenly emerges for the 2021 season as a real contender. If he keeps playing like this, he could have cemented his spot.
Claydon bowls to Cox, just trying to run it away and ends up just pushing it into the offside. Still got a delivery remaining in the over, but as you say, with Zach Crawley, Joe Denley, who, worth mentioning, I saw him out having a bit of a bowl this morning, so good to see that back injury is subsiding to an extent that he was able to get out and have a bit of a practice on the outfield this morning, separate from the main group. But Matt Walker had told me before this game that the hope was he'd be back for the Middlesex game next weekend, so could be seeing Denley back in a Kent shirt very soon, as Claydon bowls a full delivery, just misses leg stump, and Cox misses it as well as he was trying to tickle it away.
Okay, so you've got Heino Kuhn, who got 140 last match, not playing because of imminent paternity.
Yep.
Yeah, Mrs. Kuhn could hang on for another week or so, which probably for the rest of the Kent batting lineup would be quite handy if she did. If she doesn't, and Heino is back in contention, you're not going to leave him out as an experienced player. He's got 140. You're not going to leave leaning out with 160, Cox with 180, and they're still going strong.
Claydon once more bowls, pushed away into the onside, off a bit of an inside edge. End of the over, 4:13 for 1 Kent.
So you probably know where I'm going with this, Ben, is that if you are, I don't know, a Daniel Bell Drummond, who's an established member of this Kent side, who was captaining in the absence of Sam Billing, you're probably thinking, well, if Denley and Kuhn come back, and I'm the only one who hasn't scored any runs, you're going to be pretty nervous for your place. And someone that's, you know, an established player, albeit hasn't got the runs he would have liked over the last couple of years, and in a funny kind of way, there's no bad position for a county to be in, that pressure for places. But I say that and then contradict myself by saying some players like to feel that they have, they don't have to keep looking over their shoulder, that they're confident in this, that they're going to be selected. Because with that comes a certain amount of, you're able to relax, you play with a bit of freedom. But yeah, something's going to have to give if Denley and Kuhn come back next week, as Crocombe starts a new over, bowling to Jack Leaning. That's on the legs once again. It's flicked away. Probably just going to be the single. More bat on this one, down to long leg as the throw comes in. Kent move on to 414 for 1. Leaning is 164. Brings Cox on to strike on 188.
Yeah, you would suggest it won't be Ollie Robinson, who's looked really good with the bat and has got the gloves at the moment.
Played beautifully last week. Sam Billings is a class act and an international player. Obviously Joe Denley would walk into any county side. Crocombe bowling again. Short ball. Cox paused. He's got it up. This could be... It's 6. It's a great effort by the fielder on the deep square leg fence. It wasn't the middle of the bat from Jordan Cox as he swiveled on a hook shot. Short boundary up the hill towards the hospital. And just for a moment, Sussex might have thought they were going to double up on their wickets, but it wasn't to be. It was a valiant effort, but it was palmed. The fielder was already over the rope, and it's 6 more to Jordan Cox, who is into the 190s. 194. Another one like that will take him to his 200. Crocombe in again. This one full outside off stump. Full toss, steered away into the offside. He'll be looking for 2. He's not going to get it. Throw comes in. 195 to Cox for 21 for 1.
Yeah, we had an email from a Sussex listener earlier on saying about Ollie Robinson being called into the England bubble and not being used. Of course, Kent have had that in the last couple of weeks with Zach Crawley, who's, due to circumstances beyond his control really, has not been in the England side. Been a bit unfortunate with the injury or the Stokes not being able to bowl.
Short ball from Crocombe, good one. Bit of uncomfortable moment for Jack Leaning, who fended it off towards where Gully would have been. 422 for 1.
Update for BBC Radio Kent's FM listeners. Yeah, lots of records and all the batting team's way this morning. Kent 422 for 1, a lead of 90 runs. Jordan Cox, the 19-year-old, now just 5 runs away from a double century as he pushes this one away for a single. Now 4 more runs away, 196 for him, 165 for Jack Leaning, who has his highest first-class score. There's now a record second wicket stand for Kent against Sussex as well, beating the previous record from back in 1948. So it's all about the batting team. Leaning was dropped on 119. Kent have got up until 120 overs here to try and get as many runs as they can before an enforced declaration. Currently we've had 102, so it could be a quick and exciting passage as Leaning pulls this one away for a single. Kent 424 for 1 as commentary continues online. Now Kate Kinsella has the weather. So Leaning through to 166, Jordan Cox on 196. We'll get Adrian Harms back in as well to join David Fulton.
Stuart Meeker into the attack for the Nackington Road end, bowling to Jack Leaning, who just flicks it away down to fine leg. Very good morning to Adrian Harms, and not much to cheer about, Adrian, from a Sussex perspective. So they're going to have to bat well. I think we'll leave it at that. Adrian just about to do an update, I think, and just checking 1 or 2 things out on the internet. Probably looking at record partnerships as Meeker's into Cox. Outside off stump, just nudges it into the offside. It's going to be a single. Young man closing in on what will be a maiden double century. Maiden 100 yesterday. We wondered whether he could go big. He most certainly has. Played quite beautifully. Man on strike now, Jack Leaning. Played second fiddle for much of yesterday. But his contribution should not be overlooked. 167 to him, 426 for 1. As Meeker is into Leaning. Bat raised high, just solidly back and across behind it, no run. And Kent ticking along, no real sign of the foot being flat down at this stage. Perhaps Leading thinking if we can just get Cox to his double 100, that might signal a change of gear from him, and he might also be thinking about a double. They don't come along too often. As Mika comes in again to Jack Leading. Short ball, flicked away through the mid-wicket area. It looks like it's going to be four. It's beautifully timed. I say short ball, he was on the front foot. It was a length ball. And very impressive. The batsman just touch bats. Socially distant celebration, 2 metres away. Arms fully outstretched, but that was a hell of a shot. Just got a little bit straight. Stuart Mika bowls with good pace and skidding onto the bat, just flicked it away. Mika comes in again, 2 leaning. Full outside off stump drives. Didn't time this anywhere near as well, and it's just a single out to the deep cover fence. So here we go. Jordan Cox, 197 from 298 balls. Kent players all on the balcony. So it could be a very special moment for the young man, Adrian.
You keep going, David, because you've got a nice Kent confidence.
Well, fingers crossed I don't put the mockers on him. 25 fours, 3 sixes. He brought his 100 up with a big 6 over long on. I'm not sure he'll do that against Stuart Mika, but the audacity of youth, you never know. Mika is in. Short ball, and Cox just ducks out of the way of it. And that is the over. 431 for 1. 103 gone. So just 17 overs left. If I was Sam Billings, I'd be itching to get out there, but you also want to see your mates and the guys you look after. New signing in Jack Leading, and a man who played just a handful of first-class games in Jordan Cox going to these milestones.
I guess, as well talking about Sam Billings, I wonder, you never had this problem, David, because you used to open the batting, but I wonder, when you've been sitting on the balcony for that long with the pads on, how that works. Would they rotate and maybe say to somebody else, look, give Sam a bit of a break? How does that work?
Well, it can happen like that. I remember I didn't always open the batting. There was once at Taunton, I think I was due to bat 3, and we had a night watchman, and Julian Thompson, I think, was our night watchman. He played quite well for 60 odd, and I'd had my pads on for quite a long time. So it was then Alan Wells went in ahead. I'll let you take over.
In comes Crocombe, comes in and bowls to Leading, who's forward, plays into the offside, and there is no run fielded by Finch. 431 for 1.
So I had my pads on for about an hour and a half, and then someone suggested maybe we should, switch over, but just give Alan Wells, I could have a bit of a rest. I went, yeah, okay, why not? And then no sooner had we done that than a wicket fell, so Alan Wells went out there, and I had my pads on. I then had my pads on for another 2 hours, went out there and probably got out.
In comes Crocombe and bowls, and Leading looking to play that one down to fine leg, but got himself in a bit of a tangle, and the ball just drops down in front of him. There is no run.
There's 1 or 2 good signs here. I don't think Kent will mind this too much. Crocombe's got a couple to bounce. He's a tall young man with a high action. But he troubled Leading in the last over with a short ball that he fended off his nose to the kind of gully line for a single. That one also bounced quite sharply.
Crocombe with just the 1 slip. Sussex on the defensive as he's in and bowls, and pulled away. That was short, and it's pulled down to backward square leg. Garton Fields gets in the throw. He's a good fielder, is Garton, and that came whistling in. Didn't time that Leading, but he still goes on by 1 to 173, and Kent 432 for 1 means the lead is exactly 100.
Yeah, very decent lead as well.
You take over.
Okay, well, I don't want to put the mockers on Jordan Cox, but yeah, very happy to commentate on what we hope will be a double 100 as Crocombe comes into him. He's on 197, he's past the umpire, bowl's full, and it's flicked into the leg side. They're going to scamper a single. He's going to have to hurry, but he gets there. Lightning quick between the wickets, Jordan Cox, very agile. He's, of course, a wicket keeper by trade as well. Not that he gets past Ollie Robinson or Sam Billings. He's got 3rd in the pecking order, I think, at Kent, but more than holding his own as a batsman. But he's very quick.
That was a well-taken single. Aaron Thomason, the 12th man, is on for Sussex. As in comes Crocombe again, bowls, and that's off an outside edge. It's driven into the offside. He didn't time it at all. It just flew past Harry Frinch's in its short extra. And Leading comes back for a couple of runs. He goes to 175. When the lock's not with you, it's not with you. Could perhaps have got anywhere, but Leading has deserved that. He goes to 175. Kent 435 for one.
Yeah, he's had one or two hairy moments, hasn't he, Jack Leading? Dropped this morning. He was a bit unsettled by the short ball barrage yesterday as Crocombe comes into Cox, who's 2 away from a double century. He bowls, he just defends into the onside, while bowled Henry Crocombe. Decent over. He went for 11 in his last, just 4 off that one.
Looks like we're going to have another hygiene break, David. Actually, you talk about that drop. I was interested because, you know, I played cricket to no great standard. I freely admit that. But if ever you had a fine leg, if ever I was captaining, I always said fine leg should be on the fence. You know, I could never see the point of a fine leg being 5 or 10 yards inside the fence, even if he's walking in. And I felt Tom Haines was slightly guilty of that. He wasn't on the fence, and had he been, or is that a little harsh?
Well, I think it's a little harsh because you've got it's quite a long boundary down there. So if you're on the boundary, the golden rule is, yes, you're there to stop the boundary, but you're also there to stop 2. So if you're 120 yards away, for example, and it gets nudged into the leg side, then the fielders are going to get back for 2. So you try and be as deep as you can, but also in a position where you can stop the second run. So you would, on a big boundary, perhaps creep in 5 or 10 yards. I mean, to be honest, it was still a catch he should have taken, in all honesty. It was, Australian style, hands, fingers to the sky, just above his shoulder height, maybe head height. It was travelling, but it was a catch that a professional cricketer would expect to take. That said, these guys this is just their second game after 4 months of most of them being furloughed, so they wouldn't have probably taken too many high catches. And that has to be taken into account, and also a long day in the field yesterday, but yeah.
Well, Leading escaped, and Jordan Cox is going to be on strike. He didn't show any nerves yesterday when he got into the nervous 90s. I think I saw a report yesterday, and he faced something like 9 balls in his 90s, which was extraordinary yesterday. Yeah. And he went to his tub with a huge 6. I don't know whether it'll hit Stuart Meeker for 6, but it would be some achievement if he does.
This is what I was just saying in the last over, that kind of fearlessness of youth. I remember, I think I might have mentioned yesterday, being on 97 for about 13 overs against Lancashire one year, with Gary Keeley bowling in the rough, and Wazim Akram and Peter Martin, and eventually I was LBW Martin for 97, having been completely dried up. Ringfield, and it was almost like Lancashire were not giving this youngster his first ever 100. If only I'd have had the Jordan Cox audacity to saunter down and loft Keedy into the stands, but that wasn't always my style. So here we go. Stuart Meeker is in to Jordan Cox. He's on 198. He's outside off stump, and I thought for a moment he'd nicked it. He just had a bit of a waft at it. Meeker has his head in his hands.
Yeah, he wasn't far away from that, was he? It was I think these two have batted well though this morning, because it almost feels like the charge hasn't quite come yet, David. But by playing what I would call in inverted commas, proper cricket, they still kept the scoreboard, ticking along very nicely.
Yeah, and I feel when Jordan Cox goes past his double 100, then I think we could see them really putting the hammer down. At the moment, it's about getting to this milestone. They don't come along too often. Meeker past umpire Nigel Long, bowls to Cox, who drives. So mid-off, Mitch Claydon is there. He's not moving too freely, the big fast bowler, former Kent bowler, of course, but he stopped that one okay.
And I guess he'll be very aware of that, Jordan Cox, that he won't want to get becalmed and use too many balls here, because the bigger picture is Kent want to, use these next 16 overs to get around a lead of 200 plus, probably.
Yeah, and to be fair, he's found the balance. He hasn't gone crazy, but he hasn't been bogged down. As Meeker's in, he bowls to Cox, it's a bouncer, and he sways out the way of it well. But yeah, there's nothing worse than getting out on 198. That's absolute nonsense, Adrian. There are plenty of things getting worse than getting out on 198. But I don't know if you remember Alistair Cook. I think he's a high score, if memory serves. I'll look it up now. 290 odd, I think he got against India. And he looked absolutely gutted to walk off the field, having missed out on a triple 100. And that is because cricket is a game of milestones, and you want to bring those up. As Meeker comes in again to Jordan Cox on 198. It's full, he drives, he's going to get no run for it, straight to mid-on, and I'm pleased to see Stuart Meeker given a few overs with a ball that's hard and new. He was charging in this morning with that old thing, bowling bouncer after bouncer. It must have been very tiring, but he's bowled pretty well here. He's making Cox work for this double 100. Yeah, Alistair Cook, highest score, 294, which was at Edgbaston against India. Devastated to walk off with 294. As Mika's in to Cox. So another bouncer, which he ducks underneath. And he'll be nervous, 198. He probably sauntered through the 130s and 140s without a care in the world. You suddenly get close to a double 100 and it starts to play on your mind. And Sussex will know that.
Martin Shaw's been in touch, David. He says, hi Ben, Adrian and David. I don't know if you read this one out, actually, you may have done. Another stat from our resident statistician. And I'll read that in a second. Because we could get another nice stat here from Jordan Cox.
Last ball of Stuart Meeker's 18th over. He's into Jordan Cox on 198. It's another short ball which he ducks out of the way of, and it is a maiden. So well bowled Stuart Meeker. Not too many maiden overs when the team's 400 plus for one. So he's done his bit and just playing on that 198 that Jordan Cox is on. Just eschewing the risk. Could have possibly gone for a hook shot or an uppercut. If he'd been in the 130s, he probably would have done. But he just wants to get the two more.
He does. Martin goes on to say, he said, this is Kent's 14th ever 300 partnership in first-class cricket and the 5th for the second wicket. So the record books really are being thumbed this morning. George Garton is into the attack for Sussex, young left-arm bowler, about number 7, taking over from Henry Crocombe at the Pavilion end. On BBC Radio Sussex, BBC Radio Kent. Thank you for joining us this morning. Myself, Adrian Harms, alongside David Fulton. And Kent in a very powerful position, leading by 103. But under the rules of this competition, now with just the 15 overs left to bat, as Garton comes into bowl to the right-handed Leaning, who's on 175. He's in and bowls, and Leaning is forward, plays into the offside, fielded by the alert Finch at short extra cover, and there is no run. There's a slip and a third man, a sweeper on the cover point boundary, short extra cover, a mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, 2 men back on the leg side, a deep square leg and a fine leg. Sussex spent a lot of time yesterday, David, with those 3 men back on the leg side, and they haven't resorted to that so far today. Garton is on his way again, running away from us in bright sunshine, in and bowls. Oh, and he beats Leaning outside the off stump, and that hasn't happened too much in this innings.
No, it's a bit of a collector's item. It was a line and length delivery that just offered down the hill. Garton left arm round the wicket, so the angle coming in towards the stumps, and just a hint of away movement. As I said, Kent won't mind that, seeing this new ball still. Just do a little bit. It's an easy game when you're 435 for one and it looks like a batting paradise, but actually when you're under the cosh and you're starting your second innings of the match around about 200 behind, which is what I'd expect Sussex to be, it could be tricky.
Garton on his way again, around the wicket, bowls short to Leaning. Leaning ducks underneath that delivery and goes through to keeper Brown, and there is no run. And I was saying to Ben earlier, and you were making the point, David, about little victories when you're under the hammer like Sussex are here and dot balls, and so that's the 9th dot ball in a row. So I guess Sussex needs to sort of feed off that. And
absolutely, I was thinking exactly the same thing. 9th dot ball in a row, that'll please Ben Brown, it'll please the fielders. They've been chasing leather all morning. Suddenly the ball going through to the keeper, batsman ducking and diving. Just give them a bit of solace.
Garton again, in and bowls, and Leaning is forward and plays a short extra, and again Finch is in, and there is no run. So Sussex doing what they didn't do yesterday, really, was to build any pressure, and Jason Gillespie acknowledged that when he spoke after the game. He didn't feel that Sussex bowled particularly well, and they didn't, is the reality.
No, the pressure being created here by the situation with Jordan Cox on 198 and Leaning 175. You can afford to do this for a couple of overs, but if it starts to go into 3 and 4 overs where they're just picking up 1 or 2, that's not good.
Garton in again, bowls, and clipped away by Leaning to mid-wicket. It's another dot ball fielded by Crocombe. So I wonder whether we're going to get back-to-back maidens, and that certainly hasn't happened in this innings.
Yeah, and back-to-back maidens when you're 435 for one and you know you've only got another 14 or so overs to bat is something that Kent will be extremely keen to avoid, and Leaning will be aware of that, and Cox will know he just needs 2 more runs and then he really can go for all guns blazing.
So here comes Garton, around the wicket bowls, and that's short, and Leading does duck under that one. It's a ball passed through over his left shoulder through to keeper Ben Brown, who takes it down the leg side. So a maiden over from George Garton. 17 overs, 4 maidens, no wicket for 61.
I'm just looking over at the Kent balcony just to see if there's any frustrated faces. I can see Paul Downton. He's hiding behind the sunglasses, so I don't. Pretty expressionless at the minute, and he'll be pretty happy with what he's seen. But I'm not sure 2 maidens are quite the order of the day in this strong position, but well bowled to Mika and Garton. And you have to put yourself in the position of these 2 batsmen, both on career bests, Leading 175, never gone past 150 before, and Jordan Cox in just his 5th first-class game on the cusp of what will be a memorable double hundred. He's 198 as Mika prepares to start another over, his 19th, 435 for 1. Mika's in and he bowls, it's a wide. It's going to be 4 byes, is it? 4 byes, which is really harsh on Ben Brown. He had absolutely no price. It was the in-swinger. It started a foot outside leg stump, and by the time it went past Ben Brown, it was 2 yards away from him. And yeah, he's on his haunches, Ben Brown, which is probably about as tall as he feels right now. He batted beautifully, and when he was on 98 and about to face that delivery from Harry Pobble, all was well in his world. He got out, and not much has gone right for him since.
It hasn't. And just the off-bail was dislodged when he played on Ben Brown. That was a cruel way to get out.
Yeah, so Ben Brown getting out for 98. Jordan Cox is on 198. He faces Mika now, who's in. It's outside off stump, and he's going to move to 199. It's just a single. You'd think that Ben Brown would bring his fielders up with a lad on 199 when he's next on strike. Try and make him hit through the field rather than gift it to him. It's always the cat and mouse games that you play when a player does get on the verge of these milestones. But Leading's back on strike. He'll also be eyeing a double 100. 5 runs already from this over after those 2 maidens. As Mika comes in again past umpire Nigel Long to Jack Leading. It's fullish, and Leading defends. I might be preparing my 12th man if I was captain with a pair of gloves and a drink. I don't know. The nice thing is you get these hand sanitizer breaks every 6 overs, so you can usher in an instruction or 2. But Jack, you know this 120 over rule?
Yeah.
There's too many back foot defensives. Mika's in again, Leading, bat raised high, short ball ducks underneath it.
Ooh.
As this slightly strange few overs of play continues. For 40 for 1, and Leading facing another dot ball.
Message in from Jeff Lloyd, who's in a sunny and very hot Lancing. He says, hello to you, Jeff. He says, will there be some changes in the Sussex team for the next game? I was thinking Luke Wells might get a game. He says, this pitch sounds like a flat one. Well, it's certainly a good batting pitch.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm surprised to see Luke Wells out of this Sussex team as Mika's in again to Leading. Always tried to launch that one and succeeded in inside edging it onto his boot, and it rolled out into the covers for no run. Yeah, I mean, if ever there was a man for this situation, someone with the concentration powers of Luke Wells, you know, occupying the crease, good old-fashioned values that he possesses, might not go amiss.
Well, I certainly think it's fair to say that when Sussex do bat second time around, there are 2 or 3 players in the top 6 who need a score, and a big opportunity. But they'll need to take it, or else that may well happen.
Mika in again. Kent 440 for 1. He's bowling to Jack Leading, and he plays and misses. And Stuart Mika has been impressive since he's opted for a slightly fuller length. He's beaten the bat a few times, the odd bouncer, just to keep the batsman honest. But he's just showing what you can do, or what he can do, when it's a bit more line and length and he's not used in that enforcer role.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's bowled well. So that was a poor delivery, the one that went for 4 byes, but 19 overs, 1 made 0 for 96 for Stuart Mika. So is this going to be the big moment for Jordan Cox? I'm sure that the Kent balcony are probably thinking, yeah, we need it to be. 13 overs to go. The lead is, what, 108?
Yeah, they want to lead at 200. I mean, from this position, they haven't lost early wickets this morning. They've just gone through a little quiet patch. Get Cox past his milestone, and then he can put his foot down, and if Leading can get there as well, what I don't think can happen is that Jack Leading can just push it around for 25 runs. I think he's going to have to accept that, you know, he either gets out in the, you know, in the 170s, 180s, or he gets there in some sort of style, because Kent need him to push on. and you don't want to undo your good work by wasting it, taking too much time. Anyway, here's the moment of truth for Jordan Cox. The field is in as George Garton, left arm round the wicket, bowls to him, bouncer, and he ducks underneath it.
Yeah, Ben Brown was reading your mind, David, because he's got everyone in on the one apart from the fine leg, and that's got to be right.
Yeah, you can't just hand it. 200s are not handed to batsmen, and captains want to make batsmen work for those kind of milestones. You know, if he's on 130, fine, you can have your men back, you can have your singles, but 199. As Garton is in round the wicket, all the field up on the one, bar the fine leg, and it's a straight ball, and Cox can only defend it back down the pitch. You can just feel the tension ratcheted up by the fact that a young man playing just his 5th first-class game, a couple of months shy of his 20th birthday, still a teenager, Jordan Cox. He's faced 310 deliveries, 25 fours, 3 maximums. He did, of course, reach his 100. The big 6 over long on. George Garton is in round the wicket to Cox on 199. He steers it into the offside. He's scrambling for the single. It's a shy at the stumps, but Jordan Cox has reached that milestone. Arms aloft. He salutes his teammates in just his 5th first-class match. The 19-year-old has brought up 200. 419 minutes, 309 balls, 25 fours, 3 sixes. He brought his 100 up with a 6. The double 100 was a scampered single. It doesn't matter. He gets a hug from Jack Leaning. Not sure that's allowed in this day and age, but when you get a double 100, no one will care. Well played, young man.
Yeah, terrific. Well done, Jordan Cox. I have to say, I like some of the etiquettes around cricket. I don't know what it was like in your day, David, but I think pretty much the Sussex fielders to a man applauded Jordan Cox, and I like to see that. It deserves a round of applause. So well done.
Absolutely does. As Garton continues this time to Leaning, or bowled back of a length. Leaning somewhat becalmed all of a sudden.
Were there players who you played with, without naming any names, who wouldn't applaud an opponent getting a 50 or a 100 or a landmark in a game?
Well, I think I mentioned to you yesterday when I managed to get away with nicking one to second slip and not walking. And I went on to get 3 figures, and not a single Glamorgan player clapped, and that was often the way if I brought up 3 figures. I managed to annoy the opposition somewhat, so I think it was often depending on who got the runs. I think Jordan Cox, they were very generous with their applause as Garton bowls to Leaning again, fullish on the pads. He clips this like a rocket through the leg side. It's going to be fielded on the deep square fence. A little bit of a fumble, but these batsmen are looking a little jaded now. They were pushing for 2s hard earlier. They settled for 1 pretty quickly there.
What do you expect to see from Jordan Cox here? I mean, he's reached the landmark. Does he just go, hell for leather now?
Well, I'd like to think you get 200 in this situation when you know you've got 12. There's 73 balls left in this innings maximum. So let's see him as Garton comes into Cox on the double 100 bouncer, but he ducks underneath it. And you just wonder at the next sanitisation break whether there might be a message or 2, because Kent, I think now, have no excuse other than to go all guns blazing.
Well, the lead is 110. We were discussing this morning, we thought that Kent would probably want at least a couple of 100. Well, 12 overs to go, so if they go at 8 and over, they're going to pretty much get there. But it'd be interesting to see the tactic now. Now, Stuart Meek is going to carry on. I think he's bowled a decent spell here, Stuart Meek. I mean, as you were rightly saying, Dave, he's playing to the situation, but Sussex have kept it reasonably tight. There have been few crumbs of comfort in the last day and a half for Sussex, but they will take some comfort that maybe the lead isn't going to be sort of 250, or you would think not. As in comes Meeker running in over the wicket to bowl to Leaning, who plays an uppercut, and that's thought it had gone for 4 runs. I didn't see the fielder out there. It was George Garton who gets in the throw. 1 more to Leaning. He goes to 177. And Kent to 4-4-3 for 1. I think the scoreboard's going to go over in a moment's time. David's having a breather for a minute, and Ben is coming back in to do his update to the listeners on BBC Radio Kent. Mika is back to his mark. Just the 1 slip in place. There's a deep backward point, extra cover mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket. 2 men back on the leg side, a deep square and a fine leg. And Mika is in and bowls and clipped away by Cox through mid-wicket. They'll definitely come back for a second run here. Tom Clark is in very quickly. The throw comes in. It's a good bit of fielding as well. Good cricket all round. Shot played into the leg side, and Cox very quickly back for the second, and you'd imagine that the charge is going to be on now for Kent. They will, I would have thought, and I don't know, I have no inside knowledge whatsoever, that they'd have expected a lead of at least 200, you'd think, the position that they're in. Mika is back to the end of his run. Comes into bowl to Clark. He's in a bowl short, and Clark does attempt to pull that delivery, but he just almost swats the ball tennis style into the leg side and picks up another single. He goes to 202. So 4 runs off this over so far. Kent 4-4-6 for 1. Ben is back with us.
We'll try and get you some stats in a moment, but just to go through the details of Jordan Cox innings: 311 balls, 25 fours, 3 sixes. He becomes the second youngest double centurion in the Kent shirt.
Mika is on his way, bowls to Leaning, and Leaning is rather cramped and steps away to the leg side. He rehearses a shot. He played it to mid-on, but he was looking to cut that one through a backward point. Who was the youngest?
I'm led to believe a few people have been getting in touch with me. David Nichols, I think it was Howard on kentcricket@gmail.com, and I've had a tweet as well from Gwen saying David Nichols, 19 years and 249 days, v Derbyshire at Folkestone in 1963. So he's second on the list and only the 11th in English first-class history.
Wow. In comes Mika, bowls short, Leaning ducks underneath it again. The ball sails through to Brown, and there is no run. The total remains on 4-4-6 for 1. So just the 4 runs off the over. I think Sussex will be... The fact that Jordan Cox was approaching this double 100, I think, has certainly helped Sussex. But Sussex, I think, will be pleased with the way the last half hour's gone, because, I mean, Kent are in a very strong position. Let's be honest, but final ball of the over, as in comes Mika. Comes in and bowls to Leaning. It's a full toss, I think, and Leaning just plays it out onto the offside and picks up a single. It is the end of the over. Kent 4-4-7 for 1, Leaning 178, Cox 203. There are 11 overs to go in this Kent innings, so I think we can expect some fireworks in the next half hour or so, but for now I know Ben's got an update to give to the listeners on BBC Radio Kent.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. David Fulton, lovely to have him here to talk the listeners through that milestone for Jordan Cox, and as you say, now there'll be a willingness to just free the shackles, although Sussex have done well to make it difficult for Leaning and Cox in the last few overs to do that, with the fields that are being set, with some of the bowling. We saw Mika just changing the pace and bowling a cutter or one at the back of the hand of the previous over, and we've seen some short stuff as well from Garton, who's going to continue from the pavilion end. Pulled away by Leaning, straight to the fielder out a deep square leg, frustratingly for the batsman, who moves to 179. As I say, or have been saying, thank you very much to everyone who's been getting in touch with their emails. Kent are 448 for 1 here against Sussex, a lead of 116, but the latest milestone is a big one, and it's Jordan Cox, the 19-year-old, now the second youngest ever player to score a double century in a Kent cricket shirt. He's just nudged one away for a single. He went through to that milestone from 311 balls, 25 boundaries and 3 sixes in this brilliant knock from the young man, who is playing, as David Fulton I think said, in just his 5th first-class game. So a wonderful moment for the England under-19 player. Jack Leaning up the other end on 179. So this partnership for Kent is a mammoth one, a record for the second wicket against Sussex as well. 339 as things currently stand, and at the moment Kent looking to try and accelerate the pace. They have 10 more overs after this one before the enforced declaration comes in under the rules in the Bob Willis Trophy. So currently Kent 450 just comes up with a single there for 1 against Sussex. Now with the weather, Kate Kinsella.
I wonder whether the 10 over is the trigger point for Kent to really step on the accelerator here.
Really just go for it. As we've been chatting about the likes of Billings to come, Robinson, Stevens, Garton bowls, clipped away by Cox down towards fine leg. At the moment these two have been batting sensibly without really throwing the kitchen sink at it.
I would agree. They've been playing what I would call sort of proper cricket, really, Ben. They've not really taken any chances, but that must happen soon. I mean, I'm sure Jack Leaning has got his eye on a double 100, but he won't want that to be to the detriment of Kent's total here. I mean, he's still 20 away, and he's going to probably have to take a chance or two here.
Yeah, he probably is going to have to take a bit of a dip. Garton left arm round the wicket bowls. Edge. Will it go all the way for 4? It will. It's fine enough. It's gone through pretty much first, second slip. Low past Ben Brown, the wicket keeper. It's a tough one for Garton, an unfortunate one for the bowler. Leaning, will be quite happy with that. 184 for him, as Lynn has just said on at BBC Kent Sport on Twitter. Some Kent fans, while rejoicing in Jordan Cox's knock, as Lucas has put it, Lynn saying hopefully Jack can manage it too. We could have 2 double centurions if they play their cards right, but at the same time, as you're pointing out, Adrian, it's not about personal milestones, it's about this lead for Kent in this game, which currently stands at 123, and they'll want that to be upwards of 150 up to 200 if they can.
Definitely.
Garton bowling with a spread field, looks to try and just tap and run out towards point there, Leaning, but well fielded. Yeah. And I think that's Salt there at point, is it? End of the over. 4-5, 5 for 1. The leader, as I say, 123, Leaning on 184. Jordan Cox 205.
Yeah, and I'm going to have another sanitizer break now. 10 overs to go, and David was talking about messages that come out to batsmen, and you'd have thought that this will be the message. I mean, even in that over where Kent were playing, as I say, in inverted commas, proper cricket and proper strokes, not attempting to slug the ball. They took 8 off of the over. An involuntary outside edge from Jack Leaning. But both of them are just looking at the scoreboard now. And I'm sure the batsmen who are padded up are actually itching to get out there now. I don't know whether you've covered it or whether we know what the record second wicket partnership for Kent is, but I mean, whatever it is, it's a pretty big one to surpass what these two have done.
So it's 382 from Sean Dixon and Joe Denley at Beckenham against Northamptonshire in 2017.
So fairly recent history.
And that's the record stand for any wicket.
Wow. So this must be sort of right up there in terms of...
let me have a look. I think I did have an email from Philip a moment ago. So what are we at the moment, this stand?
Right, we're 4-5-5 and the wicket went down. Hang on a minute. Let me go back through my notes. I've got to go back a long way for my notes. Hang on a minute.
3-4-3? No, it's got to be more than that now. So 3...
Hang on.
3-4-8?
Yeah, hang on. Let me just... so the wicket went down...
107.
Yeah, so 107. So it's 3... 4, 8, yes.
Okay, so Dixon Denley 382 is first, then De Silva and Cowdrey 368, 366 Hinks and Taylor, 352 Ashdown and Woolley. So it has just gone past Darren Stevens and Sam Billings against Yorkshire last year.
Wow, so there's some really big partnerships in fairly recent history then.
Also going past Key and Van Yarsveld, Tunbridge Wells in 2005. So, yeah, so where are we at the moment? 5th on the all-time list?
Yeah. Well, Stuart Meeker's going to come in. He's got a good spell, Meeker, today. He's worked up ahead of steam. It's a pitch that isn't favouring quick bowlers and certainly not conditions, but Meeker has plugged away in his 21st over. Comes in and bowls down the leg side, helped away, down to fine leg. Darry Rawlins is quickly round and prevents anything more than a single down to fine leg. And one more to... Cox. He goes to 206. Imagine being out there, Ben, and seeing your name with 206 next to it. What a great feeling.
From an email I've had from Howard, who's told me about David Nicholls being only the only man younger than Cox to get through to 200 for Kent aged under 20. He was suggesting that the previous best was 203 for a batsman against Sussex from Kent.
In comes Meeker bowls, and Leaning opens his shoulders and drills that one over extra cover, and that's gone for 4 runs. Well, I reckon a message might have come out because he just put a foot down the wicket and just drove the ball. He didn't quite time it, but it flew over extra cover and down to the boundary for 4 runs. And that brings this partnership up to 353. between these two. Cox on 150, Leaning on 188. So Jack Leaning now within 12 of his double 100, and to me that was a real sign that he clearly would love to get this double 100, but I think he knows that, you know, Kent will want to get a lead of around 200 here. Mika is on his way. The slip has been dispensed with. Mika is in a bowl short, and that balloons over the head of Jack Leaning. Now, what was the signal there from the umpire? Did he? I didn't quite pick that up.
No, neither did I must admit. No balls?
No ball, yes, they were no balls. He made a strange signal, but they were no balls, so 2 more to the total and an extra ball. In comes Mika, bowls, that's short, and rattles through to Ben Brown, and there is no run. So, off this over so far, 5-7 so far, and there are still 3 balls of the over to go. 462 for 1. Wow, that's an impressive score. There'll be a few Sussex batsmen in that top 6 who are thinking, right, I need to get my head down out here today. Mika comes running in towards us. Bowls, and well pitched up and played by Leaning into the offside. Good ball by Mika, and Finch is very quickly in from extra cover to field. The field itself, there's a deep backward point, deep cover, both of those on the boundary, long off just inside the boundary, just the one man on the offside saving one, who is Harry Finch. On the leg side, a long on almost, a few yards in from the boundary, a mid-wicket, a backward square, and a fine leg all on the boundary. So Sussex very much on the defensive as in comes Mika running in and bowls. Well, that balloons over the head of Jack Leaning, and that has been signalled. Has it been signalled as another no ball? I think it has. On height.
Surely had to be.
I mean, he would have needed an extension ladder to get anywhere near that. It just ballooned over his head. Let's just wait for the signal. Has it gone up as no balls on the scoreboard? Well, it hasn't, but the previous one...
How is that not a no ball?
Well, and I think particularly when the previous one was, unless the scoreboard has not seen the signal. In comes Mika again. Bowls, and that's going to be 4 runs. Clipped nicely round the corner by Jack Leaning. Not a great delivery by Stuart Mika, and Leaning was able just to tuck inside the line and tickle that around the corner for 4 more. I just waited for the umpire's signal, yes. And they were 2 no balls, so there is still another ball to go in this over. So a boundary to Leaning takes him to 192. Now the scoreboard is not showing. Yeah, there we go. So off this over, it's been 5, 7, 9, 13 off the over, and still another ball to go.
Just a quick point, Adrian Phillips saying perhaps 110 overs, the cut-off point for bonus points, so Kent choosing to go big now. Sussex can't get any more bonus points for wickets, perhaps.
Good point. Forgotten about those. In comes Mika and bowls. Full toss, clipped away by Leaning straight to mid-wicket. He'll feel he missed out then, and he looks heavenward as if to say, that was there's no one behind Rawlings at mid-wicket, so if he'd have gone a yard either side, that would have been 4 runs. However, I think Kent would take a return of 13 off the over. Yes, and that's that's not a great statistic, is it, from Sussex to pick up no bonus bowling points. 468 for 1. Cox on 206, Leaning on 192. We've got 9 overs to go. Ben Brown, Mitch Claydon and George Gartner in conversation about what, I don't know, perhaps field placings or who's going to bowl next. Garton has bowled 19 overs, 4 maidens, 0 for 71. And it's a long time ago that Daniel Bell Drummond was out when the score's 107. So 9 overs to go. And, to get a lead of 200, Kent are going to need, 32 plus 32, 64. Well, I mean, they're going to need to get... Well, I think they're easily going to get to 200, actually, Ben. A 200 lead.
Garton bowling to Jordan Cox, 206 not out for him. It's a Yorker length delivery, not quite getting up there, and it's driven away. They're going to run a quickly scampered 2.
This is going to be almost T20 style now, I think.
Yeah, very much so. That'll be the message from the dressing room, and these 2 will feel well set and able to to open up. From Leaning's point of view, he's probably hoping that Cox can really go on the charge now, just allow him to maybe get through to 200 and do likewise. But here comes Garton again. Oh, that's a vicious delivery back of length. Cox was looking to try and run it down towards third man, but it reared into him. Excellent bowling.
It was. A bit of encouragement there, actually. David was saying there's been a couple of balls that have bounced a little, and when you've got a lead like this, the Kent bowlers won't be sad to see that. Chris Gibbs has been in touch. Hello, Chris. Sorry, this was a tweet from a while ago. He said, the playing conditions, i.e. only being able to bat 120 overs, work well for Sussex. Without that, Kent would probably keep batting until shortly after tea with the bat once big principle. Yep, I agree with you. Thanks very much for that, Chris. Good to hear from you.
Here comes Garton, 4-1 wide outside the off stump, no ball, and it was a front foot no ball.
Yeah.
That one from the left arm round the wicket.
Clive Grew says, I was thinking this would turn into an old Gillette Cup thrash for the final 20 overs, but not yet. Presumably Cox will cut loose once he's reached his 200. Thank you, Clive. That was a tweet from 20 minutes or so ago, and you're absolutely right. Kent are really looking to step on it here now. 13 off the previous over, 4 off this one, and still another 4 balls to go in this over after that no ball from Garton.
Here comes Garton again. Cox goes in the air and into the offside. This is going to be safe as he's lofted it over the top of extra cover. It's hauled in just before the rope, and Cox will scamper back for a third. So good running from this pair as he goes through to 211 now, Jordan Cox.
Yep.
4-7-5 for 1, the Kent score. The lead 143. Keeping an eye on the partnership as it continues to grow as well.
Yeah. I'll see if I can help you with that as well.
Garton once more to Jack Leaning, who's got his bat raised nice and high behind his waist now, and he drives this low full toss effectively away into the offside, but they're only going to be able to run one due to the fielder out on the deep cover boundary. At the moment, this fielder's out at third man, at deep point, at deep cover, at long leg.
Yeah.
Perhaps
369. The stand is now.
Now deep
Ben.
extra cover. Say that again.
369. I make
you.
this partnership.
Thank you very much. So, what's the next one they're hunting? Is Garton bowls. Oh, a lovely short ball, and Cox has tried to hook it away and swung and missed at it. So 369.
369. I make it.
369. So it's gone past Hinks and Taylor, which was 366.
Where on the list is that?
Against Middlesex at Canterbury in 1990. That was third on the list.
Wow.
It's gone past second on the list, which was De Silva and Cowdrey against Derbyshire at Maidstone in 95. So now it's second only to that Dixon Denley stand at Beckenham against Northamptonshire in terms of highest stand for any wicket by a Kent pair. Slower ball down the leg side. Cox has tried a bit of a sweep shot of that, but Garton gets away with the rewarded for his imagination, shall we say. It was leg side, but no leg side wides, of course, in this form of cricket, even though it does feel like a limited overs thrash at the moment. We are going to have a gel break, as I like to call them, alcohol hand gel, the hand sanitizer spray being brought out, probably some new gloves and drinks and bits of kit for the two batsmen who are sweating out in the Canterbury heat at the moment, giving their all for the Kent cause. Thanks to everyone who's been getting in touch, kentcricket@gmail.com. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get to all of your emails due to the cascade of different milestones and partnerships that have been happening out there.
Sorry, Ben, could you just remind me what the overall Kent record is then? I think you must be on commentary if Kent gets to that.
So the overall record, 382 between Sean Dixon and Joe Denley. Kent against Northamptonshire at Beckenham in 2017. So
right,
382.
Right, so I think they need another 14. Is that correct? Because the wicket went down on 107. So 476 less 107 is 369. So I think from here they need another 14 runs. Please someone tell me that's incorrect. I think that's right.
I think that's
so if we had 14 to now, so that was the magic figure. That's the way to do it. Is the magic figure is 490. So if they get to 490, that's 107.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, 490 less 107 will give 383, and that will break the record.
Thanks to everyone that's emailing in with your stats, the likes of Howard and Phillip and Martin. And also David, who got in touch. Ken as well. Thank you to Alison and Nigel, Sydney, Rob, who've also emailed in and haven't been able to get to your messages. Bit of spin from the far end.
Yeah, leaning plays rolling. Sorry, Ben, I was
right.
Plays it into the offside, fielded by Haynes, and there is no run. The field is far flung, just one man saving one on the offside. That's Haynes. Rawlings in bowls, and Leaning cuts that one away. It's going to come down towards third man. It's going to beat the fielder. Yes. I think the ball has just touched the rope. That was a good effort by Jack Carson, but it was cut away by Leaning. Very fine. He goes to 197. I think you better get back on commentary. There's another landmark, and the Kent record is now just 10 runs away, Ben.
Leaning 197 then. Recently joining the county from Yorkshire, defending this next delivery into the offside. He smashed his previous first class best, which was 131. He was dropped on 119. He's been the key protagonist this morning. Rawlings bowls to him. He tickles this around the corner. I think this might be a leg by. His keeper Ben Brown goes into the leg side to get it. In fact, I don't think the umpire's given it, so maybe a bit of glove.
Yeah. 9 until the record.
Former England under 19 himself, Jack Leaning, but now 26 years of age, and of course making that move from Yorkshire to Kent in a bid to establish himself across all formats. Short ball from Rawlings, the left arm spinner, and pulled away hard by Cox down the slope. Excellent bit of work in the deep.
Yeah, Harry Finch out there. That was a good save. I thought that was going to be 2 runs, but Finch, and to Sussex's credit, they're chasing hard in the field. I haven't seen too many heads go down. It's pretty demoralising for them, but they've kept going, and that was a good example by Finch, preventing a second.
Rawlings bowls again, Leaning just a little dab and run, nudges it out towards fine leg for a quick single. He moves to 199. We have, in fact, he's counted that perfectly. End of the over, so he'll be on strike for the next one. 7 overs remaining, and 7 minutes until lunch as well.
Yeah, I saw a sign come out for some new gloves. So, where are we? Jack Leaning needs 1 for a double 100. Kent needs 7 for their all-time partnership record.
Yeah, so this is the highest ever by a Kent pairing at Canterbury. Of course, the record that they're hunting was set at Beckenham. Thanks to Ken for that one and pointing that out. So yeah, as we've established, it's 490 is the target to beat Messrs Denley and Dixon, and we saw Joe Denley out doing a bit of warming up and bowling some leg spin earlier on. He's out with a back injury at the moment, but looks to be on the road to recovery, so he's on the ground.
I guess we should mention, in terms of the match, the lead is now 151.
Aside from all of these stats, that is the most important thing, as a couple of our listeners have pointed out, the likes of Andrew. It's all about winning the game from Kent's point of view. It's Claydon bowls and Leaning defends. This one back down the pitch, as much as it's about Cox getting 200, Leaning getting 200. For Kent not to capitalise on this dominant position they currently find themselves in and really go hard and get as many runs as they can at the back end of this innings before the enforced declaration comes at 120 overs. It would be a miss of them to be focusing on landmarks, and I'm sure the batsmen aren't out there. We're talking about them a lot on commentary, but the 2 batsmen out there will be just thinking runs. How am I going to get my next run? How am I going to get the next boundary? This one's tucked away into the onside. Jack Leaning has a double 100 in a Kent shirt. He's got overthrows as well. He's not even watching as the ball goes over the boundary rope for another boundary. Jordan Cox runs and comes down to give him a hug as he takes off his helmet and dressing room. Jack Leaning through to 200 from 289 balls. A marvellous innings from the former Yorkshire man in just his second first-class match, wearing a Kent jersey. He now passes the double century mark, and Kent have 2 double centurions at the crease, 488 for one. Jack Leaning has 204, and he's just brought it up with a 5.
Yeah, the throw hit the stumps, and that's when it ran away. You better keep going here, Ben, because another 2 runs, and Kent and these 2 will have the record.
Claydon bowls. Cox has smashed this down towards us. It could go all the way. It's 1 bounce. It's 4 runs. It is a record stand in Kent's history, and it's been set here at the Spitfire Ground, St Lawrence, by Jordan Cox, the 19-year-old, and Jack Leaning, the new signing from Yorkshire. 492 for one. It surpasses Sean Dixon and Joe Denley's previous best against Northamptonshire at Beckenham in 2017. 382 it was then. This pair now have the new record as Cox glides this one down towards the deep backward point boundary for a single. The Milestones continue to tumble, and I've had a couple of emails in asking about 2 double centurions in the same innings as well. We'll get to that in a moment, but for the moment the key stat is Kent 493 for one, 161 the lead, as Claydon in once again. Slower ball, runs his fingers over the top of it, cut away hard by Leaning down towards that deep backward point boundary once again for a single. 1 ball left in the over.
Well, I'm sure, well, I may be completely wrong, but I would have thought the 2 batsmen are probably blissfully unaware that they will they've broken the highest partnership in Kent's history. I mean, that is an extraordinary achievement, Ben.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? As Claydon in, bowls cut away hard by Jordan Cox. This might well go for 4 as well. It has. It beats deep backward of point, and third man, it hits the gap between the 2 of them. 498 for one comes up with Jordan Cox 221. Jack Leaning on 205. Just getting a drink brought out, and I got another stat actually handed to me by the guys in the office here at Kent saying this is the best ever individual score by a Kent batsman when they've reached 100 for the first time in first class cricket. So Jordan Cox, of course, yesterday we were talking about him just getting 100. Now he has 221 to his name. Leaning 205, that lead 166. Kent 498 for one. Howard saying that only one instance in Kent's history has there been 2 double centurions in an innings. That was back in 1934, presumably an untimed game at Brentwood against Essex, when Kent got 803 for 4 that day. He hasn't named the 2 individuals.
But there were some figures, some bowling figures there.
But we'll try and find that out as well. Extraordinary batting efforts from these pair.
Well, it really is. Now, we've got 6 overs remaining of this Kent innings.
But just 1 before lunch?
I reckon Delray Rawlings has got the rather... That last over went for 15, by the way, from Mitch Claydon. In comes Rawlings over the wicket. Bowls to Leaning, who tucks this one back good a square on the leg side. He picks up a single. Claydon rather wearily comes into field. 1 more to the total, leading to 206. Kent 499 for one. The field is completely far-flung. There is nobody saving a single anywhere. Sussex have now got 9 fielders on the boundary. So there could be plenty of 2s here. As in comes Rawlings. Over the wicket bowls. And Cox drives firmly through the offside. He hits it too well, really, and fielded by Garton. Out on the cover boundary as the throw comes in. And there we are. There's another landmark. 500 for Kent. 500 for one. In 114 overs, so they've not been hanging around either, in 457 minutes. Leading 206, Cox 222. Rawlings is back to his mark and comes into bowl to the right-handed Leaning, who plays as easily into the offside and picks up another single. He'll go to 207, Kent 501 for one. So that makes the lead, by my maths, 169. We thought Kent would want a couple of hundred as a lead, and they're pretty much on target to do that with 5 overs remaining after this one. Rawlings turns over the wicket bowls, and Cox leans back and caresses that to deep backward point. Crocombe is eagerly around the boundary for Sussex and gets in a good throw as well. Well done to him. But this is really all about Kent today, and it's all about Leaning and Cox and the records that are tumbling in front of our eyes here in Canterbury. Rawlings back to his mark. Good over so far. He's just conceded the 4 runs, all of them singles. He comes in again over the wicket, bowls, and Leaning just is going to get another single as he plays that easily out to deep extra cover, fielded by Haynes in his white floppy sun hat. 1 more to Leaning. He goes to 208. Kent 503 for 1. I think this will be the last over before lunch. And Rawlins is on his way. He bowls, and Cox just plays it straight back down the track. And it is the end of the over, and that is lunch. So Kent will have 5 overs to bat after the interval. They're 503 for 1. That's a lead of 171. And a morning when records have tumbled here. Jordan Cox 223, Jack Leaning 208, and fair play to Mitch Claydon, who's gone up and he's congratulated both of these Kent batsmen, and well, what a wonderful achievement. I can't think of any better words really, Ben. I'm sure you can.
Hard to put it into words really. It has been a batting clinic from this pair, an extraordinary effort from Jordan Cox and from Jack Leaning, who are no doubt about to get a rapturous round of applause from their teammates as they come in at the lunch break. Since joining the highest ever partnership by any Kent pair for any wickets, beating the previous best of 382 by Joe Denley and Sean Dixon against Northamptonshire at Beckenham back in 2017. Kent's lead in the match is 171. We've just gone through to lunch. They will have 5 more overs to bat after that lunch period before, by the rules in the Bob Willis Trophy, there will be an enforced declaration and Sussex will be batting once more. Kent 503 for 1 at lunch here on day 3 against Sussex at Canterbury. Now Kate Kinsella has the weather.
Well, it is the perfect day for cricket, particularly if you're a Kent supporter, because Kent at lunch are 503 having lost just 1 wicket. Jordan Cox is 19, he's still there on 223.
Jack Leland is on 208, and they have broken the all-time record for a Kent partnership for any wicket this morning. They so far been on 396. The lead for Kent is 171. Sussex have toiled away with a hot day. Nothing has really gone their way, and they've got it all to do if they can go any way to saving this match. Meanwhile, at Chelmsford, Essex are 120 to 3, leading Surrey by 101 to Middlesex 75 to 2 in Hampshire. Very good, we got yeah, I want to pop round in a bit, Dave. Let me see this and I'll wander around. Do you need to help me then?
Okay, thank you. I'm just doing this.
Sure?
Stay long to the left, Jeffrey. There.
Right, Jen? You run out of space yet?
This reminds me of Tunbridge Wells. 3 years ago we were down with you.